Okay, today is April 8th, 7th, 8th, 7th. April 7th, and we have 14 questions here with a reachback. Start with question number 1. By the way, if you're doing this at home because you never did it, just press pause right now, try these questions, and then press unpause, and you will have the answers to all of them available to you. Our first question says 5 take away 8 minus 3. So 5 take away, what is the product of 8 times negative 3? The answer is negative 24. So we do have to take away a negative 24, which of course is the easiest way is to add the opposite, and we get 29 for our answer. That question is worth 2 points. 1 point for showing work, 1 point for the correct answer of positive 29. 2 points for the first question. Second question, again a bed mass question, negative 10 times negative 2, which is positive 20. And a positive 20 divided by a negative 5 is a negative 4. 2 points for that question. 1 point for proper work, 1 point for the correct answer of negative 4. Question 3, we start getting into our fractions. 3 divided by a half. Calvin, do you remember the easiest way to divide fractions?
I'm pretty sure I do.
What is it? Correct. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. And since 3 is a whole number, 3 times 2 is really what the question is. So 6 is your answer. 1 point for any kind of work. I don't care about the exact work I have because it probably doesn't look like that. And 1 point for the correct answer of 6. So 2 points for that question as well. Question 4 is 3/4 times 1 1/2. The easiest way to multiply, remember what we did before. If we modeled it, we said 3/4 here, 1 here, and a half here. This would be 3 times 3/4 times 1. This would be 3/8, and we would add those together to get the answer. That's the modeling side of it, which is very inefficient. The most efficient way was to change our mixed fraction to an improper fraction, multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators, and change it back to mixed. So your answer is 1 and 1/8. 1 point for work, 1 point for the answer. 2 points total. Our next question is a bed mass question. So we have 3/5 divided by 4 plus 1 1/2. Of course, we are going to do the same thing we did in the last question. Multiply by the reciprocal of 4, which is 1/4. That's going to give me 3/20. And 3/20 plus 2 1/2 is really what we have. And when we add, as long as we're not subtracting, we can just keep the fractions as is. So we're going to keep this whole number over here. And we're simply going to add the fractions 3/20 and a half. An equivalent fraction to 1/2 that has a denominator of 20 is 10/20. So when I add those, I'm going to get 13 as a numerator and 20 as a denominator. Bring it back over to the whole number that I borrowed. And our final number is 2 and 13/20. You can use your best judgment. 1 point for work, 1 point for the correct answer of 2 and 13/20. It's 2 points in total. We get into algebra now. We have a two-step algebraic equation with a constant and a coefficient. The constant is 5. The coefficient is a negative 1/3. So we're going to get rid of our constant first by subtracting 5 from both sides. Negative 1 equals x over negative 3. Multiply both sides by negative 3, because a negative 1/3 times a negative 3 are opposite operations, and we get x equals a positive 3. Your work and my work shouldn't be too different because we all practiced how to show your work exactly like I like it, and your answer should be x equals 3 or 3 equals x. 2 points for that question. 1 point for the work, 1 point for the answer. Next question is also a two-step algebraic equation. 5 minus 2x equals negative 1. My constant is still 5, so I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides to get rid of it. Some people always forget that that's not a 2x, that's a negative 2x, so we're going to keep the negative sign with the coefficient. Equals negative 6. Divide both sides by the coefficient, and our x will equal a positive 3. 2 points, 1 point for work, 1 point for the correct answer. And our last algebra question is a distributive property. 2 ways you could solve it, so I'll just clone this real quick. I'll clone it. bring it over here, bring this one over here. We'll do it two different ways. Some people might have expanded using distributive property, giving you 10x minus 30 is equal to negative 50. And if they did that, they added 30 to both sides and got 10x equals negative 20, and divided by 10, and x equals negative 2. They might have done it that way. If they didn't, they more than likely said that 10 groups of x minus 3 is negative 50. Then dividing both sides by 10 will tell me what one group of x minus 3 is equal. And then they added 3 and got x equals negative 2 as well. Either way, the answer to that solution is x equals negative 2. 2 points. 1 point for the work, 1 point for the answer. $1.80 for 4 pencils. How much is it for 5? There are 3 ways they could have solved it. The first way is to set it up as a rate. Then, if it's $1.80 for 4 pencils, it would be divide by 4 and divide by 4. It would be 45 cents for 1. And if it's 45 cents for 1, multiplied by 5 and multiplied by 5, it's $2.25 for 5. That method is called what? Unit rate method. Another way they could have set it up is just as a proportion. $1.80 for 4 is equal to how much for 5? What did you multiply 4 by to get 5? The answer is 1.4. Oh, no, hold on. It's 1.25. Why didn't someone say you're right, Mr. Mack? Don't worry about it. It's 1.25. And then $1.80. Ooh, my calculator's way askew. $1.80 times 1.25 should be 225. That is the multiply divide method, and it's all equally as acceptable. But the method that most of you probably chose because you like it so much is proportional reasoning using algebra, or the cross multiplication method, equals x over 5. Multiply this way across your proportion to get 4x. Multiply this way across your proportion to get 9. Divide both sides by 4, and x equals 2.25. No matter which way they chose, unit rate, multiply, divide, or proportional reasoning, they got the answer of 5 pencils would cost you $2.25. 1 point for any kind of work, and 1 point for the correct answer. Our next question is also a proportional reasoning question, but is a useful one because we're actually using it to compare. Small, medium, and large, it's $1.80 for 120, it's $2 for 200 mils, and it's $2.40 for 250. We said before, if you're going to compare amounts, you want to have it in a unit rate. Now we said 1 milliliter is a very small amount, and it doesn't actually work out to be even a cent. So we said the easiest way is to change everything to 100 milliliters, or a deciliter, right? So here we're going to divide by 1.2 and divide by 1.2. And $1.80 divided by 1.2 means it costs $1.50 for 100 milliliters. So the small is, as a rate, $1.50 for 100 mils. So that's the unit rate for a small. For a medium, it's $2 for 200 mils. So therefore, that's pretty easy. It's $1 per 100 mils for the medium. So far, that's the better deal of the two. And the large is $2.40 for 250 mils. Divide both by 2.5. You get 100. And $2.40 divided by 2.5 equals 0.96. So therefore, it is 96 cents per 100 milliliters. And therefore, the answer is the large is the best deal. And no matter what work they showed, they might have done something pretty similar to that. But 1 point for work and 1 point for the correct answer that large is the best deal. And our last proportional reasoning question has person A is going 40 kilometers in 30 minutes and person B is going 60 kilometers in 45 minutes. Who is faster? So if we set it up as a rate, this is the rate of speed. If we bring it up to a unit rate, we can go 1 minute if you wanted to, or if you wanted to, you can go to 1 hour. We're going to go to 1 minute. Divide both by 30. It's 1.3 repeating kilometers per minute. Now, if you want to bring that to an hour, you could. You can multiply it by 60, just because it looks better. You don't have to, but for 1 hour, it seems more reasonable. 1.3 repeating multiplied by 60 is roughly 80. So person A was going 80 kilometers per hour. Person B, 60 kilometers in 45 minutes. Divide both by 45. And 60 divided by 45, this is interesting, is 1.3 repeating. Which means, without going any further, what can I say? They're going the exact same speed. So 1 point for work, and 1 point for the statement that they're both going the same speed. They're both going approximately 80 kilometers an hour. Our next question is a really, really simple mental math question for percentages. What is 50% of $50? The answer is $25. What is 25%, which is half of half? It's $12.50. What is 10%? Move the decimal once, you get $5. 1%, move the decimal twice, you get 50 cents. 0.1%, you move the decimal 3 times, you get a nickel, or 5 cents. And 0.5% is half of 1%, and since 1% is 50 cents, 0.5% is 25 cents. That's worth 6 points. Wow, that's a good way to dig back into the, if you were screwing up the other questions, you got back into it pretty quick with 6 points up for grabs on a relatively easy question. 6 points up for grabs here. 1/40th is a decimal. Everybody knows the easiest way to change 1/40th to a decimal is to take the numerator and divide it by its denominator, and you get 0.025. And since 0.025 is 25 thousandths, that's what it is as an unnecessary fraction. But as an equivalent fraction out of 100, divide both by 10, you get 2.5 out of 100, which tells us that the percentage is 2.5%. Or if you wanted to write it fancy, 2.5%. 0.101 is 101 thousandths. So as a fraction, 101 over 1,000 is the answer to the fraction. 101 over 1,000 is equal to 10.1 over 100, which means as a percentage, it's 10.1%, or if you want to be fancy, 10 in the 10th percent. And finally, 120% as a fraction can't be easier than that. It's 120 over 100, or 1 and 20 hundredths, or 1 and 2/10, or 1 and 1/5. Any of those 4 answers is correct, because that's what it actually is as a fraction. And finally, as a decimal, 1 and 2/10 is 1 and 2/10, or 1.20. Both are okay. But that's what it is as a decimal. That's worth 6 points for question number, what was it? Question number 13? We have one more left? One more question left. An $800 dirt bike is discounted 5.5%, then taxed 15%. How many of you did it mentally? Found 10%, found 5%, wrote it down, found 1%. Okay. The easiest way to do it, if it's discounted 5.5%, the easiest way to do this, if it's discounted 5.5%, what percent are you going to pay for? Tori, what percent will you be paying for if you discount it 5.5%? 94.5%. Does everyone agree? If you discount something 5.5%, you only have to pay for 94.5% of it. So 94.5% of the dirt bike is really what you're paying for, or 0.945 of the dirt bike's cost. So to work that out, 94.5% of the $800 dirt bike is $756. Now that has to be taxed at a rate of 15%. So I could multiply it by 0.15 and then add it on to 756. Or, Jordan, since you're the smartest person in this room, what can I multiply 756 by to get the final price with tax? $1.15 is correct. So take my 756, multiply it by 1.15, and our final answer for that bike is $869.40. 1 point for a reasonable amount of work and 1 point for the correct answer of $869.40, and that should be good.